Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to yet another 3D pilot video. Today we're going to continue on materials and we're going to have a look at the different kind of texture maps that we use to make photorealistic materials. This is going to be a really basic tutorial, but still you're going to be able to make about 90% of all materials that you see around you using these couple of techniques. We're going to have a look at three kinds of texture maps: a diffuse map or a color map, a roughness map or a glossy map depending how you see it, and a normal map. So let's head into Blender. So here we've got a little scene in Blender. I made this little object. You can't see it that well right now. But I'm actually using Blender 2.8, which isn't officially released yet. This is still in development phase. So it's possible that the program crashes. I wouldn't recommend doing big projects in this, but it's still great for visualizing. And I'm actually using Eevee, which is the real-time renderer. I can use cycles as well, which gives very, very comparable results, but it takes a long time to render. You can see if I look around, Blender takes a while to render this this image, while Eevee is a real-time renderer. It isn't exactly as photorealistic, but it'll still allow us to see what the different kind of texture maps do and how we make a good material. The first thing we're going to do is add a new material. There we go. And we're going to use a principled shader that I've talked about before. If you haven't got the principled shader, you can always go to Add down here, go to Shader, and then add a principled BSDF. And then just connect the BSDF up to the material output like that. Doesn't really matter which one I'm using. By the way, this is already unwrapped, so we don't have to do that anymore. And we're going to have a look at the different settings that we've got down here. So the first thing is this multi-scatter thing. You can just ignore that. Most things can be ignored basically. The base color allows you to set the color of your material. I'm going to use a nice dark bluish color right now. There we go. Subsurface, I talked about that in one of my last videos. It's a little bit harder to deal with and we haven't got it in Eevee yet, so well, not really well implemented. So we're not going to be using that, but if you want, you can always turn it up using cycles. The color and the radius isn't really important. The metallic is very important. If you go making a material that's a metal, it's very important that you set this value to slider 1. And if you're not making a metal, slide this back to 0. It's really important that you always set that to 0 or 1. There's not really anything that's in between. It actually should be just a button, metal or not. But well, that's the way it works right now. But we're not going to make a metal right now. The next one, specular and specular tint, can be ignored. The roughness is a really important one. Right now we've got this shiny kind of plastic material. If I turn down the roughness, so make the object more smooth, you can see that we get clearer and clearer reflections until the point that we've got a perfectly clear reflection. You can still see the color through it, but the reflections are perfectly clear. It's reflecting the Hamburg train station that I've got right now. And if I turn that up, we go through a polished plastic to, well, a normal finished plastic, all the way up to some kind of soft touch rubbery material. So I'm going to set that back to a value around here. Excuse me. Anisotropic isn't really important for non-metals, but when you're using brushed metal, you can use this, but we're going to skip over that right now. Sheen and sheen tint is not really important. Clear coat is when you want your object to look as if it is varnished. You can use it with woods that are varnished, or for example car paint. But that's not really important. There's more advanced materials, we don't need that most of the time. Index of refraction isn't important either, and transmission is when you want transparent materials. So you can just turn that up and give it a color and you've got a transparent glass or plastic. So that's just the basic settings, but it only allows us to make perfectly smooth objects that are just made out of one color, one looking material, one clearly looking material. So the first thing we're going to do is apply a texture for the color, which is called a diffuse texture. I'm going to use this one. I already opened that up. So you can go to add a texture, and then select in, where is it? Image texture. Plop that down somewhere over here and open up your image texture. Right now I've got this diffuse texture right here. Open that up and plug that into the color of your principled shader. And right now you can see that the color appears on here. If it doesn't, your model is probably not UV unwrapped, so you can check my last tutorial about doing that. So now we've got the color on our model, but it's not really looking like a true patio stone material. And it's because it's way too shiny. You can, of course, up the roughness a little bit, but it still looks really smooth and really soft. So what I will do is actually add another texture. There we go. And we're gonna open up the herringbone roughness texture, which looks like this. If you want to have a bit of a better look at that, it looks like this. And you can see that there's black parts and white parts and gray parts in between. So we're going to use that to drive the roughness of our model. Now the roughness, when it's at 0, you get a perfectly clear reflection as I showed you, and at 1 you get a really soft reflection, a really diffused reflection. So this texture is actually telling each pixel how reflective it should be, how much roughness it should have. So wherever this texture appears really dark, really black, the stone should be really shiny, really smooth, and really sparkly, like a whetstone. And where the texture is white, we get a stone that's a lot more rough and diffuses the light a lot more. So we can just plug in this texture into the roughness value over here. And it's very important whenever you use a texture that's not really contributing to the color of your final model to set this color to non-color data. And this will tell Blender that you're just using this texture for the data inside of it, not really the color that it has. So the effect might not be that clear, but if I have a look at the reflections over here, and I would turn this texture off, you can see that the reflection is really smooth. When I turn it down, it's just a really perfectly smooth reflection. But with this roughness map, we get some more interesting reflection. So that's already helping, but it's still not looking like stone. So that's why we're going to use a third texture, which has a really dramatic effect. So we're going to add another texture, and this time we're going to add a normal map. So a normal map looks like this, like a purple map, like a purple kind of color, and it looks like this up close. There we go. So this is actually telling the program where the little cracks and little bumps in the material are. So each pixel in this texture got a certain color, and depending on what color it is, the pixel should be rotated in 3D along the x-axis, y-axis, and pointing from the camera, pointing away from the model or not. It's a bit of a difficult explanation. It's a little bit mathematic. I can't really explain it that well. You can have a look at the links in the description if you want to know more about that. But most of the time we have these normal maps created by software. We don't do this ourselves, so it's not really important to understand all the nitty-gritty mathematical details. But yeah, that's the normal map. We're not using the color of this, of course, because this color is not really attractive for stone. So we're going to set it to non-color data again. And we're going to plug that into the normal input of our principal shader. Now, at first this won't look right. You can see that you've got some tiny bumps on the surface, but it's not looking correct. And that's because we haven't added a vector node. Because right now, you're just plugging colors into the normal input, and that's not how Blender works. You should tell Blender that you're actually using a normal map, and that it actually should interpret the color data as that 3D pixel movement. So we're going to add a vector node for this, and we're going to choose normal map. If you're using a bump map, you can choose bump. Bump is just a black and white version of a normal map, basically, and tells the software where pixels are higher or lower. But with a normal map, we've got a lot more detail, so I'm always going to use normal maps. There we go, and we can just plug that in right in here. And there we go. We've got stone that looks a lot better now. We've got little surface bumps, we've got the roughness going on, and we've got the color. To prove that this is really looking like stone, I can just unplug the color if you want. And even though it'll be blue now, you can still see that we've got this brick texture going on. Now you'll notice that sometimes your maps don't really do a good job of making the material that you want. So for example, the stone is way too shiny right now. So this roughness is way too dark actually. This roughness map is too much black. If I have a look at that texture, it looks like this, the roughness map. But I want it to be a little bit more white, so the roughness of our material will go up. So for this, I'm going to add converter and add a color ramp. Now what this node does, I'm going to have a look at the roughness map again. What this node does is it remaps all the black values to this point of the color ramp, and all the white values to this point, and everything in between. So I can map the black to white texture that we've got here to, for example, a red to white texture by changing this left pointer to red. But that would be stupid because we're just using the 0 to 1 value for the roughness. So I'm going to turn that back to black. But what you can do is lighten it up a little bit, make it a little bit more white. And you can see that as I make this left arrow whiter, our texture becomes lighter, and so our roughness goes up. So if we have a look at the material in the principled shader here, as I make this left arrow lighter, we can see that the roughness and the reflections are more diffuse. So we've got almost no reflection like this. And if I turn it back down, you can see more and more reflections showing up. So I'm just gonna pick a value that seems natural to me. There we go, that looks great. And that's it, that's our material. So just as a recap, I'm gonna do this again, this time for a different material. So I'm just gonna open up a different color. This time we're gonna use a red leather material. So the color is just a red leather type of texture. It looks like that. But we still got the bump of the patio, so that's not looking correctly. So for the roughness, I'm gonna select the red leather roughness map. And for the normal, I'm gonna open up the normal map that's come with our leather. There we go. And now we've got our leather material. Again, we can change the roughness of it, the glossiness, by selecting this left arrow and making this mapping value lower or higher. The higher I make it, the more diffuse our texture becomes, and the darker I make it, the more shiny it becomes. So again, I'm going to select a value that I think looks appropriate. It can be quite shiny. And there we go, that's a leather. Now, what about a different color of leather? Because now we've got a diffuse texture feeding into the color of our principled shader, but sometimes you want a different color. Well, that's really simple. You just take this color and then change the hue of it. So if I go to add, color, and hue saturation, I'll plot that in right in between. Now we can change these values to change the color of the object. So if I set this hue to a larger value, you can see that the color changes. If you haven't heard of hue, you can check the link in the description about what hue is. But it basically changes the color of your texture. So I'm going to use this kind of green. You can select all values in between. You can even type in something if you want, like 0.72 gives a nice green color. The saturation is basically the verzadiging, the saturation of your model. That's Dutch, by the way. And the value is basically how dark your texture is. So you can change that up and make any color that you want based off that red leather texture. If you would turn the saturation down to 0, you can even make a black leather if you want, and still have that nice reflection, the roughness map, the normal map, everything associated with this material. So that's real nice. Now one more, we're going to make an iron material. So we don't need this saturation value for that. So I'm just going to delete that. Delete. Doesn't want to go. Oh, there we go. Set this color. We're going to use the color of our metal. So under iron, I've got 3 maps again. The diffuse, which is basically a gray texture with a little bit of detail on that. For the roughness, I'm going to select the roughness map, which is really dark because our metal is really shiny. And for the normal, I'm going to select the normal map that we have, the purple looking map. And there we go. So right now the model looks really white, and it doesn't really look like metal. And this is because we haven't set the metal slider all the way to the right, and we have to do this every time we make a metal. So if I do that, you can see that we now have a nice iron looking material. So that's really important to always set this metallic value to the correct value, 0 or 1, never something in between. So that's looking really good. Now I'm making this in Eevee, as I said, but when you go to the cycles renderer with the same principled node, you can see that the material just looks basically the same. It's basically a one-to-one translation. It's working really good now. But of course, cycles takes a lot longer time to render, but it gives you a lot better results, a lot more photorealistic results. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm using Eevee, you'll probably be using cycles. But you can do the same things over here, and you'll see the changes reflect in your model. But going back to Eevee, you don't always need all of these textures. Sometimes you can just use one texture to have a material that's still really believable. And I'm going to give you a little bit, well, some examples. So I'm going to delete all the textures that we had. We don't need those anymore. We're back to this material that we made before. So one thing that you can use is just a basic roughness map. So if I add another texture, image texture, and select a smudges map, like I downloaded off Polygon, which is a really nice site for these kind of textures. I've got two textures here. I'm going to use this fingerprints texture. So if you want to have a look at that up close, it looks like this, which is basically a black texture with white fingerprints on top of it. I'm going to use it for roughness, so I don't need the color, I just need non-color data, and I'll plug the color into the roughness. And now we can see that we've got a really dirty material. So wherever the texture is black, our roughness is 0 and really smooth. Our surface is really smooth and reflective. And wherever it is white or lighter, we get a rougher reflection, so you can see the dirty fingerprints. Now again, you can change it, change the effect of the map with a converter color ramp node. I'm going to plop that in between. And for example, making the black parts of the texture. Oh, getting a text message. Getting the black textures and the black parts of the texture a little less reflective. You can select this left arrow and set the roughness value to be higher. You can see that it's a little bit less reflective. And if you want the fingerprints to not be so obvious, you can change the right one, which is changing the lighter values of our texture, and make that a little bit darker. So you can see that this changes the effect that the fingerprints have on our texture. Now you can also change this up a little bit and make it a really rough material, so this soft touch material, and have the fingerprints be shinier, so actually darker, by making the right the right arrow a little bit darker. And now you can see that we've got a soft touch material which has got some really greasy wipes on top of that. It might not be pretty, but it looks a lot more realistic and a lot more believable. And if you want to know why that is important, again, check the links in the description. Now you might have heard of procedural textures before. Now I'm not going to go too in depth, but I'm just going to show you one of the uses that procedural textures have. So a procedural texture we can find in the texture. I've got a couple of them here. For example, I'll choose a Musgrave texture. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not quite sure. Musgrave. And that actually looks like this, kind of like a cow's hide. You've got a couple of different settings. You can change the scale of the texture and make the detail and the dimensions. I'm not quite sure what that all means. It's basically mathematical garble, but I'm not going to go into that too much. But that's what procedural textures are. They're not flat textures. They're actually, you should imagine them as clouds that your model intersects with. And wherever your model intersects with a white cloud, you've got this white smudge appearing. Black clouds give this. So you should think about the texture as being sort of a 3D existing texture. So you don't need your model to be UV unwrapped to get it into a 2D texture. We're not going to use that one. Another interesting one is, for example, the Voronoi one. Voronoi. And that looks like this. It's got these different cells. You can change the scale again, change the coloring to this multicolor kind of pattern, but we're not going to use that one either. No, we're actually going to use the noise texture, which is just a texture full of noise, basically static noise. You can change the scale of that again. It's just a basic black and white. Well, now it's in color, but if you choose the vector value, you can see it's just a black and white texture. And I'm going to use that for the normal. So I'm going to plug that into the normal and have a look at our principled shader. And again, the principled shader will not look correct. You can see that if we've got this strange line appearing, that's not what we want. We actually need to tell Blender that we're using a normal map. Well, a bump map actually. So under add, we're going to add a vector and add a bump node in this case. And I'm going to plug the vector value of our noise into the height and the normal into the normal of the principled. And there we go. So this gives a lot of bumps on the surface. If we change the scale, we've got a lot more small bumps. We can make it really big scales. So we've just got a little bit of waviness to our surface. We don't want to use a really fine detail. But right now it's a little bit over the top. The bump is way too hard, so we can set that bump to be a lot lower. And there we go. You can just play around with these values and have a look at the effect on your 3D model. You can also use this plus the roughness map of the fingers and have an even more realistic material. So basically you can have a lot of fun in the node editor here. Just give you a quick demo of how you should use things. But you can use this to make really nice materials. And the principled node is basically the only node that you need. So yeah, that's basically it for this episode. I just showed you what a diffuse texture is. So that's basically the color texture that you've got. The roughness, which tells Blender how rough or how shiny your object is in each different pixel of your image. And we've got the normal map, which tells Blender where the little bumps and scratches and little surface details are. I do encourage you to go play with that a little bit. It's a lot of fun to experiment, but of course you need some textures. So that's what my next video will be about, and that is where to get texture, where you can find them. You can actually find a bunch of great textures that are free online already, or you can also make your own textures if you need some specialty materials. So yeah, we're going to talk about that in our next episode. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye!